Let me get this put on there. We'll fire it up, retuner, run it on dyno. And we'll get you some results. See what 200 thousandths will do on moving this stinger on an Ironhorse pipe. What does a spanner wrench off of a 4.5-inch angle grinder to take that nut loose, and a cross brace off a set of scaffoldings for building side of a house or roofing or siding or whatnot have in common? Well, if you get out your TIG torch and put them together, you're going to come up with something pretty awesome. I've been busy this week doing some custom tedding and custom baling, and today it's 98. I just went by the house there and got me a refreshment and looked at the thermometer, and it said it was 98 degrees plus a little bit, 98 point something freezing heights. I don't know what that is, calculus, probably up there around 40, and 116 real feel. I don't know what that is. What was I going to do today? Well, I was thinking about yanking the top off this 026, looking at the cylinder, looking at the piston, giving you guys an update on how that burn pattern's looking on that piston, and probably opening up the other side of the lower transfers. We've only opened up one side, and I'll probably do that. But in the meantime, I got sidetracked. I don't know if you guys ever get sidetracked or not. But I was talking to Ironhorse this morning. I hate to keep throwing his name out, but it's just honesty, okay? And we got off in the weeds about his pipe, the Ironhorse pipe. Well, by his own admission, and I ain't talking bad. If I got to say something bad, I'll just keep my mouth shut. But on the other hand, I'm not trying to steal his glory either. I'm mentioning him because it's his pipe, his design. Anyhow, the Ironhorse pipe, he told me, confided in me, whatever you want to say, he thinks there's room for a little bit of tweaking or improvement or things of this nature. And I want to try some things based on what he said. We discussed his pipe. Kick's got something treed out there. Probably a chicken or something gonna kick his butt. He's still scared of everything. Except for cows, he'll face him right down. Anyhow, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build me an Ironhorse pipe, and this was about the right thickness. I don't ever use these spanner wrenches. Got 2 or 3 of them laying around, about the right thickness, about the right size for a flange. And this old piece of steel here, it's cross bracing off scaffolding. It just happened to be the right diameter, and it's hard to find the right diameter to make an Ironhorse pipe to be able to square it out. And then you either got to cut the corners and spread them out, or cut the corners and bring them in to try to get it fit in there so your bolts will fit and have the right diameter. But I've done a little bit of calculizing here, and I know my length I need to have on this to start. And anyhow, I'm going to sit here and tack this up on the jig table with a TIG welder. And just because I have one don't mean I are one. So I'll probably tack it and actually bring it over to the MIG welder and turn it down. Yeah, you've probably already seen this cylinder because I'm not going to make y'all wait on this. But in the meantime, I'm sidetracked. It's hot, hotter than the hubs of heck. So I'm sitting in here, got the fan blowing on me, which ain't no good for TIG welding. I get it, but I'm around the corner. I'll just shut the hell up. Bring you guys back when I got something done. Now, you guys that don't know any better, I want to let you know right now, I'm the best welder in the world. I can weld a pop bottle to a tree stump. I can weld a corn cob to a concrete wall. Now, for all you real welders that are a little squeamish, you may want to look away. But we get by with what we got. We're using scrap metal and scrap brains, and not even trying to use filler rod yet. But I like what it'll do if I can get it learnt. That's about like chainsaws. I ain't got this TIG welding learnt neither. I've done a lot of stick welding and a whole bunch of MIG welding in my day. And I had a buddy, I think he hates my guts, give me this MIG torch that hooks to my stick welder. I can say I think he hates my guts. He said, oh, if you can weld with a torch, acetylene torch and a coat hanger, you can weld with a TIG. Well, yes and no. Same principle. Other than I kind of see what the heat's doing on a torch. And if I move my torch back and forth just a little bit, it don't seem to stick like this this tungsten does. Now guys, usually I braze these, and there is no reason in the world to TIG weld this if you're no bigger TIG welder than I am, except for about the same reason the dog licks his butt. Just because he wants to. Well, that or to get the taste of my wife's cooking out of his mouth. Needs some anti-porosity spray on it. You know, along with pipe stretchers and board stretchers and all that. That's something, you guys, if you're brand new on a job somewhere and they send, and I hate to ruin it for any of the old timers, but if they send you after anti-porosity spray, just go take a nap, because they're sending you after something that doesn't exist. And if they don't need any worse than that, well, shucks, you just want to take a nap. Yeah, we pretty well got this glued down. It's cooled off. Done a little bit of grinding. Had to fill in a couple things. Getting ready to cut this off at 3.79 inches, or the closest I can come to it with my high-tech caliper, micrometer, guesstimator. But I want to cut this off, and I want it to be pretty flat on the end. So thought I'd show you this little trick I use sometimes. It's not the best, but if you put a hose clamp around that, about where you want that, give or take, that hose clamp will pull down on that fairly straight all the way around, because it's got some rigidity back and forth. Then you can make your mark, so when I go at her with a hatchet here after a bit, I can get it cut off to where it's plumb 90 degrees. Make sense? Perfect. Thought it would. Okay, here's what we got so far. We've built the tube for the Ironhorse type muffler, and what we're doing, of course, is making it adjustable. I want to be able to adjust this air spring, I'm going to call it, right in here. So we took a pipe collar, chucked it up in the lathe, bored it out so it's a press fit. Getting ready to put it on there backwards. But so it's a press fit here, so I can move this. I've got about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more of adjustment here, and I can measure that, and I can measure this rebound area up in here. So we're going to see if we can adjust. We're going to see how that affects the saw by moving that in and out. I have a strong suspicion it's going to change the RPM working range of the saw. May be wrong. But it changes something though, don't you reckon? But essentially that's where we're at. We're making a sliding valve, kind of like a trombone. But actually I've got a better plan than that for the next iteration of this. But I'm going to proof of concept this, bring you guys along with me, run it on dyno short, run it on dyno long. I may end up having to cut this off too, and you guys just missed the old, I haven't put this on the saw, of course, you can see it's still rusty. Rusty and shiny. So, any of you guys that missed the old video of how to find this proper length, I got to do that while the saw is running, so we'll do that too. But there you go. I'll bring you back when we get this beat together and get her on the saw and do a startup. All right, we got her mashed together and we got it shoved as far forward as we do, so the air spring's the smallest in there, right? And we're gonna see if it'll fit. Hopefully I got the angle, the dangle and the droop and the loop and all that stuff just right to fit that in there. As long as it clears this, and I don't necessarily care about the chain brake working right now, because this is just a test piece to try to either make a theory or prove a theory, or disrupt a theory. I don't care. I'm pretty easy going either way. I don't care. Learning's learning. Mistakes are okay too. Getting the gasket and every stuff on there just right. Oh, peacocks are mad, ain't they? Let's see if it'll start. This thing ain't been started in, since I did that white oak. I need to do that dadgum carburetor one of these days, that carburetor adjustment. Detent don't work on this choke, so I got to start it I gotta hold that choke down with my thumb right now. I forgot to tell you, we'll see if this thing goes a little fat. I don't know yet. I can tell you right now it's fatter than it was, so that's one indication we're doing some good, ain't it? And you could hear it too. I hope you could hear it. Take out my, I know they're not earplugs, call them earplugs all the time. Leave me alone. Take out my earplugs so I quit hollering at you guys. Yeah, I think we'll get her on dyno just like that. Move it back to the other one, get a dyno the other way, and see what our difference is. So I only got the room from here to yonder to be able to move it, right? Which is about 1/4 inch, which is enough, I think, to tell us if we're headed in the right direction. Maybe need to go shorter, maybe need to go longer. But we'll get some measurements and some CCs. I don't know that I need to worry about telling you guys what that is, but that's my intention. I need to be able to get some CCs or cubic inch, however you want to measure it. Watermelon seeds squared, I don't care. However you want to, we'll do anything but the metric system, won't we, here in America? Yeah, mashed up grapes or whatever. We're going to measure that. We'll know about how many cc's, at least on this saw, and then later on we're going to see if we can extrapolate that to work on every saw. That's what I'm trying to do for Ironhorse. I'm doing a little bit of testing that I really want to share with him, and yeah, we're going to see if we can't basically make this pipe tunable enough to where we can start maybe seeing a pattern, right? Okay guys, been a little bit since I went over the dyno with here on the channel, so you guys know what you're looking at. Some of you probably know. I know the guys been here a while know. Some of the new guys may not. Gals, women, and children, and every people. Of course, here's my dyno. You guys are, let me start off by saying you guys are watching this chainsaw from right here. And I'll have a cell phone up here and it'll be recording these numbers. The saw, that's just, I can put whatever saw in there I want as long as I can get it to mount on my bar. This here, I've got a thermocouple. I'm out right in the head of this particular saw, so I can measure heat. I've got another thermocouple here. I can put that wherever I want. Usually I put that in my can, in my muffler. I can measure exhaust temperature while I'm doing this, guys. That's going to show me is a couple different things, but it's going to show me on these numbers back here, and I'm going to bring in just a little bit. This top number right here needs zeroed out. I just turned it on just for y'all's benefit. It reads foot-pounds of torque. It's hooked to a torque arm here and presses on this scale. Of course, the torque arm length and all that's in my spreadsheet. If I have to change, that's 4.24 inches long from center to center. If I need to put a different torque arm on there for some reason sometime, I don't have to change the whole spreadsheet. I've got that in a cell. I can change the number. I can change the length of that accordingly. This reading is about 0.0153 of the torque that the saw is putting out. And that varies a little bit depending on the weather. The weather correction factor comes in the spreadsheet after this. Okay, now this here is my tachometer, and you'll notice that it usually reads you know, in the 8,000 range when we're starting to pull the saw down when it's free revving, and then it starts pulling good around the 7,000 RPM range down to 6,500. And then I always quit my dyno pull at around anywhere below 4,000. When I watch it below 4,000, I let off of it. Now, that is not the saw's speed. It's directly coupled to the saw by chains, so there's no slippage. It's chain drive to this, but this is reading my shaft RPM on the input of the dyno. At its current configuration, I'm driving a 24-pin homemade sprocket on this dyno. I built the sprocket. It's 24-pin, and right now I'm driving it with a 7-pin. 24-pin driven with a 7-pin. Both those are in my spreadsheet. If I want to put an 8-pin on there, I can get a dyno reading with 8-pin, but it's going to change what the number shows here. But I change it in my spreadsheet, input this number, and it'll still come up to the saw's RPM. Normally speaking, this is going to read 7/10 of the RPM. Okay, when this reads 7,000, the saw's actually turning 10,000. If that reads 7,700, the saw's turning 11,000. Now, I've got two temperature readouts here. The top one generally, and I try to do that all the time, the top one's always the head temperature, the bottom one's always the exhaust temperature, provided and a lot of times I don't even use the exhaust temperature. I didn't on this one because we're doing the Ironhorse pipe, and I don't have a thermocouple built for the Ironhorse pipe. I wasn't going to do that on this one. But suffice it to say, we don't waste nothing around here. That bezel's made out of a piece of shim stock, and that's an old MS 260 muffler can right there to hold all the wires and the goodies. Now guys, I want to look you right in the beak and tell you this part. Dyno works good. I consider myself to be pretty mechanical. I built the whole dyno, and I'm usually pretty good at math, right? Okay, so I built the whole dyno, and it's repeatable, and it's good. I tell you that to tell you this, the idiot that built my spreadsheet, and if I can ever find that idiot back, I'm going to set him in the corner and make him think about what he's done. We found two problems with my spreadsheet along the way. I found one about 6 months back. Now, every one of them made my dyno read lower than what it should have been, right? The first one, some idiot that built this spreadsheet made an I into a J because he probably can't see very good and he didn't have his glasses on, which threw everything off, but not far enough that I ever realized it. And I'm like, that didn't factor right eventually. I'm like, that just ain't right. So I tell you that to tell you this. I found another problem that idiot had done the other day. Like I say, I'm pretty good at math. And I said, I was putting in the air correction factor, and we've been running the air correction factor for a long time because it's a huge difference. I was putting the numbers in the spreadsheet that this other guy built, and it did not show right. What I said, that ain't right. So I looked around in there, and I found a problem in the air correction factor that I'd done. Now that doesn't void anything we've done in the past. We've gained, it might bring them a little bit farther apart, but you guys have all heard me say before, I don't think this air correction factor is working right on chainsaws because it's not changing as much as I think it should with the weather and the air correction factor. I don't think chainsaw, and I relied on that spreadsheet. That'll teach me to ever trust that guy again. I relied on that spreadsheet.
It ain't all my fault. Everybody knows I shouldn't be allowed around a computer. I shouldn't have been made to write a spreadsheet. But I'll try to do better.
And now, I got that figured out. So you're going to see a little bit higher horsepower on today's stuff. I actually went back and put the other numbers from the previous iteration in the spreadsheet. Suffice it to say the numbers are a little bit higher than what we're used to seeing. Not much. It's just I know whenever I'm hunting a half a tenth of horsepower, a tenth of horsepower over 4.5 horse or so, which is what we're dealing with now, if I don't get my correction factor right, I may do something that loses, and if I do it on a cooler day, I'll think it gained. But you understand what I'm saying. If I don't take the weather into consideration, I can see a gain as a loss and a loss as a gain. Okay, Stihl 026 outlet move forward. I'll start it back up, let it cool down to below 250, and we'll start it. right, everybody, appreciate you sticking around. We got 4 different charts here for you to look at. I think they're each one of them interesting in their own right. This first one is a short cushion versus a long cushion. Now we'll see that the short cushion did do better than the long air cushion out there, long air spring. So we do see that that affected it. By just moving that outlet pipe 2/10 of an inch, we changed this by 1/10 of a horsepower, which is substantial. And we also moved the RPM range by about 430 RPMs, which is also substantial. Now, we did lose a little bit of torque with the short air cushion over the long air cushion, but we moved the torque range up 330 RPMs as well. So we moved everything up on the red line. We gained over a longer air cushion, 200 thousandths longer air cushion. We gained from about, let's say 8,200 RPMs out to 13,000. I'll also note that I usually show to 12,000, but this Ironhorse pipe, the way it's currently at, pulled another 1,000 RPMs basically. My chart just wouldn't catch it at 12,000 or 12,500, wherever it's usually at. I had to run it on out to 13,000, and we of course go down to 5,500 here. So let's look at a different chart here now. Pointer's doing crazy stuff, and I don't know why. But the red line again is a short cushion. That was the best of the ones that I tried. Now the previous was the reduced volume bark box, okay? That's the blue line. Even comparing it to the previous version, our max horsepower was 4.47 and the bark box was 4.58. So we lost right at 1/10 of a horsepower by going with the Ironhorse pipe, right? Okay, but we gained 730 RPMs with the Ironhorse pipe. So that's gonna bring us to our cut factor chart. We're gonna bring that back in here in a minute. We lost max torque, we lost 400ths again. Over on the blue right here, we lost 400ths. The bark box had a little bit higher torque range. It started beating it here about 10.7. What I want you to notice is how much flatter this red line is than the blue line, how much flatter that Ironhorse pipe. It actually pulled 4.47 horsepower for 600 RPMs, meaning at 9860 or so, it was still pulling exactly 4.47 horsepower. The thing's got a phenomenally flat horsepower curve, which is gonna just make a guy like me that ought to have a diesel powered chainsaw because I got no finesse, that'll make a guy like me think it has more peak horsepower because it's so flat, you don't have to have as much finesse. Oh, that's sweet. Now let's look at the next chart. Now what I did, guys, is I cut the exhaust pipe off, the one out to the side, the stinger. I cut that off, and I'll give you those measurements here in a minute. We lost horsepower pretty quick, and we changed the RPM range. The red line is always what I'm currently talking about. So the short stinger's the red line. And we basically lost until we got to 9,500 RPMs, 9,750, and then it overtook the longer one. So depends on where you want whether you want lugging power or if you got a little more finesse. But if your saw is in the cut at 11.5, by the time you get down to 95, we could argue the exhaust pipe, the longer stinger, is going to fall on its face just a smidge faster. These aren't great big differences. A guy'd be hard pressed to notice them, but we are trying, and we're trying to document them. So right now I'm thinking I liked a little bit longer pipe on just a short cushion versus a short cushion and short pipe. So what's that mean to us? Well, that means on the cut factor. Now I'm going to bring my cut factor back out, and I changed it a little bit. And I was talking to the designer of that other pipe. I said, I need to just settle on something. So what I think I've settled on is I'll get the maximum horsepower, and then I'll take readings 1/10 of a horsepower on each side of maximum. And then I'm averaging all 3 of those together with a multiplier, and I come up with a cut factor of 4.48. The Ironhorse pipe, it peaked out at 10,721. So actually when you're multiplying these two together, and those two together and taking an average of the three is what we're doing. We actually show the Ironhorse pipe having less horsepower, but seeing as how the RPM ranges are way up, we're showing a better cut factor because we got more chain speed. Just a smidge less horsepower, but way more chain speed, right? And we're going to continue on. I think we're going to stick with this. If anybody has any better ideas, let me know. Now, the next thing before we start getting into the new spreadsheet I just built. No, that other idiot built it. The new spreadsheet that other idiot just built. We may have some growing pains with this, but I'll share that with you where we're starting at. The Ironhorse pipe with the short air cushion and the short stinger is the only one I've done a heat run on. Guys, I don't know, it just grates my nerve to hold that saw for 1 full minute at 10,000 RPMs at whatever horsepower it'll pull. At 10,000 RPMs, it seems like an eternity. And I only pulled one heat run, and it was on the short pipe and the short air cushion. Now you can see the previous version was the offset cylinder with a milled mace and the bark box. The only difference is on these two are the exhaust. Okay. Similar horsepower, we're a little less. This one here, like I say, it's hard to keep it 100% straight. I just get it every 5 seconds. But see, we was 4.22 there on the blue line at the end, 4.19 on the Ironhorse. So we're only talking 0.03 of a horsepower difference, and we started out substantially similar here. Just the way I run the dyno, they spread out a little bit here in the middle. But suffice it to say, the bark box did beat it all the way across the board. Not saying it didn't. But look where the Ironhorse beat it. We're down here in the temperatures now, and I keep saying this. We got 5 through 60 seconds, and every 5 seconds we got a reading. We see that Ironhorse pipe kept this saw way cooler the whole time. And I suspect if a guy run it 2 minutes, it'd really get farther apart, but I don't know that I can stand to do that. But we were, 34 degrees lower at the end of a 1 minute run, starting them both at 250 degrees. So look how much cooler that Ironhorse pipe run. There's a lot of benefits to it, especially if you just discount, if you don't look at just peak horsepower at peak RPM, and there's a lot more to a saw than that, but the dyno helps us find some of that too if we look beyond just the numbers the dyno pits out. Now let's move on to the next chart that I just started today. Guys, help me out with this. Leave it in the comments if you like it, don't like it. But I think it's going to help us find a pattern with these pipes. Okay, now this one's going to get kind of intense here. All this in the yellow are inputs. Pay special attention to the top 3 lines. That's basically what I'm going to deal with. I put in some old stuff back here that was can mufflers and reduced volume cans. Anything that had a stinger on it that I can measure. So what I've got is the saw CCs, the compression CCs. So that's a 50.2 cc saw, but it's only got 32.12 cc's of compression, right? The next is the cut factor. Now, dealing with this Ironhorse pipe, the cc's of the pipe, I was across all 3 of these, I was at 31.14 cc's of the pipe. Pipe diameter was 0.08 inches. The pipe length never changed, 3.9 inches. Now, what did change is that air cushion, the rebound, and the cc's of that. The long air cushion cc on the short was 3.61 cc's. On the long, it was 5.24 cc's. I wouldn't have guessed it to move that many cc's, but it did. And there's the length. Now, we've got the stinger cc's and the length and the diameter. So the stinger cc's was 5.73. I dadgum near doubled the cc's. I wish I wouldn't have cut that much of it off. And until I put it in a spreadsheet, I didn't realize how much I'd moved it air-wise. Okay, now I input all these, and I've got the rest of this. Follow along. That's all calculated out to give me a couple different things here. It's going to give me the pipe versus displacement. That pipe is 62.03% of the cc's of that saw. This is going to become important when we start doing more saws. The pipe cc's of the compression volume is 96.95. That pipe is almost the same volume as the amount of volume from the exhaust to the top, right? Now, the cushion at the end of the pipe, the air cushion, on the short one, the one that worked best was 11.59. Now, I need to go shorter than that and see if 8 or 10% is better. The long one was from 16.83. Same thing with the displacement of the cushion in relationship to the displacement of the saw. Also, this ratio of the air cushion to the compression displacement of the saw. Now we've also moved on to Stinger. The Stinger, we've got a few different ones because I think that's going to become real important too. I haven't started messing with that too much yet, just one iteration. But we have the Stinger in relationship to the pipe minus the cushion. So basically how much volume's up to the end of the Stinger, right? Then we have the Stinger volume of the full pipe in a percent. The Stinger is this much percent, is 33.69% of the pipe. Now, this one is the Stinger's displacement in relation, the Stinger in relationship to the displacement of the saw. It's 20.90% of the total displacement of the saw. Now this one, and it's also 32.66% of the total displacement of just the combustion from the exhaust roof up. So I can take and go back here at some point and auto arrange these by cut factors, and of course it'll put this in here, up here, and we can go back over here and start seeing a pattern, I hope. That's what we're after. Guys, tell me what you think. If I earned it, give it a thumbs up. If I didn't, give her the old Julius Caesar treatment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.